Hello, my name is Joshua Croker, and today I will be recognizing the achievements of the great author J.R.R. Tolkien. Although he was the expert on Norse language and mythology, and he wrote several poems and short stories, Tolkien is best remembered for his fictional world of Middle-earth. He only finished 2 works set in it, The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings, and there are some other Middle-earth works, like the Silmarillion, that were published posthumously. You might wonder how 2 works could make an author great, but these 2 works open a window to something far greater, an entire world. The Hobbit was originally a bedtime story Tolkien told to his kids. Eventually, he decided to publish it. It is the story of a simple hobbit, Bilbo Baggins, who was recruited by 13 dwarves and the wizard Gandalf to go on a quest to slay a dragon. It is a fun story, but Lord of the Rings is Tolkien's masterpiece. The Lord of the Rings is a more serious sequel to The Hobbit. In it, Frodo, Bilbo's nephew, has to destroy the One Ring, forged by the Dark Lord Sauron. The only way he can do this is by throwing it in the volcano of Mount Doom, where it was made. Along the way, companions are met, great battles are fought, and Frodo slowly succumbs to the corrupting influence of the ring. While some stories are morally ambiguous, Lord of the Rings has clear battles between good and evil. It also reflects on heroism. In one conversation between Frodo and Gandalf, Frodo says, "I wish it need not have happened in my time." "So do I," said Gandalf, "and so do all who live to see such times. But that is not for them to decide. All we have to decide is what to do with the time that is given us." Although the story of Lord of the Rings is good, great, in fact, the world is the truly amazing thing about it. The world is so well constructed that it is easy to accept wizards and elves, goblins and trolls. It is developed well, and you see little hints to a larger world. There are fictional languages spoken by characters, references to historical events, these little tantalizing clues. In the appendices, there are some histories, which even include dates, and there are genealogies. Tolkien went to a lot of work. He even went to the painstaking effort of getting minor details like the phases of the moon or the time required to travel a certain distance right. The Hudson Review said of Lord of the Rings, quote, "The most original and varied creation ever seen in the genre, and certainly the most self-consistent, yet it is tied up with and bridged to reality like no other fantasy. Tolkien has made his world a prodigious and, so far as I can judge, unshakable construct of the imagination," unquote. The larger world that is seen in Lord of the Rings can be further seen in the posthumous Silmarillion, published by Tolkien's son, Christopher Tolkien, from his many notes. If you read the Silmarillion, you'll notice many parts of it, read like a history book relating battles, wars, journeys, and politics, and other parts read more like mythology with quests and great deeds. In fact, that was part of what Tolkien wanted to do. He wanted England to have a mythology, and because it didn't really have one, he decided to make it up. Also, another cool thing about his world is the language. He has made several languages for his world. In fact, it's not even right to say the languages were made for the world. He made the world so there would be people to speak the languages. The Elvish languages especially were well developed, with multiple languages made. And not only did he have multiple unconnected Elvish languages, but he actually had a history for them. So he knew all the interrelationships between them and all that stuff. He even kept his diary in Elvish. Also, Tolkien pretty much invented the literary genre of high fantasy. Previous modern fantasy writers wrote fairy tales. Tolkien expanded his world far beyond the simplicity of a fairy tale and pretty much became the basis for future fantasy stories. He has also inspired me. Lord of the Rings is basically my basis for evaluating fantasy stories. And, along with some friends, I'm developing a fictional language. We would never have thought of that without Tolkien. Middle-earth was Tolkien's life work. He poured so much time into it. It took him 12 years to write Lord of the Rings. And he was 22 when he published when he started the Silmarillion. And remember, that was published after his death, and he died at the age of 81, so 60 years. One of Tolkien's short stories, Leaf by Niggle, has many analogies to Tolkien's own life. In it, the titular character, Niggle, works all his life, whenever he can find the time, to work on one painting. Similarly, Tolkien spent his entire life working on one great thing, the world of Middle-earth. Thank you for listening. Feel free to critique this speech from my blog and read Tolkien's works. Trust me, they're good.